The funny thing to me is, man, squatting is by far my favorite movement. It's what makes me want to train, right? You know, that's kind of what started this whole fascination with the barbell, was the ability to squat, to learn how to squat, to overcome this challenge. And it wasn't a second nature thing to me. It was very much difficult for me to even squat on day one. I'd fall backwards, you know, the typical, mobility restrictions where you just roll on your heels and then roll backwards. It's just I didn't have the hip mobility, ankle mobility, none of that. So you kind of like caught my attention. It wasn't an issue of strength. You know, every other thing that I tried felt like it was strength. I couldn't deadlift 100 kilos because it was a strength issue. It wasn't because I couldn't get into position. But squatting was the only one that was like, no, you can't even get into the position, right? So it was kind of the unique one that kind of grabbed my attention, and over time, it kind of festered into this obsession of trying to squat like the guys that I've kind of looked up to and got exposed to really early on. And that's kind of always kind of been my trouble, perfecting it, because I feel like my body's not built for it, but I've fallen in love with it. It's kind of falling in love with the wrong girl. You know, she keeps burning you, she keeps hurting you. She's not really into you, but you love her so much and you keep chasing her. Like that toxic type of situation where it's like, there's no light at the end of that tunnel. It's just pain and agony, and you got to kind of move away from it. You certainly hear stories about people in those type of situations. You're like, damn, man, you're going to have to pull the pin on it and deal with the heartache. I kind of feel like that, not that severity, obviously, but the squat is not a natural thing for me. Deadlifting comes more naturally, even though I have these short arms. So it's kind of like weird that I'm okay at deadlifting, even though I have to bend over freaking 90 degrees. Not built for that either. So I'm not built for squatting because of these long legs. I'm not built for deadlifting because of the short arms, although I kind of make it work. When I say I make it work, it doesn't hurt me. Deadlifting has never hurt me. Squatting has. The one thing that's like, first squat, deadlifting second, and then like there's a huge drop in excitement about training all the way down to maybe bench pressing or pull-ups or something like at that level. But it seems to me that I am more built for bench pressing. I don't know. I have kind of felt crappy in my upper traps once upon a time when I started bench pressing, but that was so minor. The elbow I screwed up because I tried to use the bands. That's kind of been an issue with me, but that's because I tried something really new and I tried really aggressively. But just plain old benching at 70%, 80% weight, whatever the hell the case might be, even working up to a heavy single, doesn't hurt me. I feel like it's just a natural thing for me. I have these short arms and I can just go for it. I just did 15 sets of 10 in bench with 90 kilos. So lots of work. I've been here for 2 hours, man. Chilling out, walking around here, doing things, bits and pieces, and just benching in between. And the whole time I'm like, man, I wish I could just do this with squats. But I know if I did that with squats, with 70 or 60, 70% weight for 15 sets of 10, I know the following day I'd wake up and I'll feel a certain way the following day. I just can't tolerate that much volume. Even the days when I was doing lots and lots and lots of big squatting, I always kind of felt off. It feels good that the blood is kind of going, but you kind of feel a little bit off. You don't feel like I feel right now with the bench press. Like the pecs are pumped, triceps are pumped, deltoids are pumped. Like I just feel good. Everything feels happy. Tomorrow I'll wake up like nothing happened. It's just, I might have a bit of, DOMS through here or whatever, but there's no bad pain, if you know what I mean. Because I feel like when I'm benching, if I can't get the weight up, that's it. But with squatting, if you get stuck, there's like a degeneration, declining form quality as the set progresses, because you can go from a leggy squat, a squatty squat, to a hingy squat as the certain muscles start to fail you. And so there's like this transition that can happen in a given set, and you're still moving the weight's still being moved, but you're using slightly different muscles with each rep, And you can keep on going. You keep on going, and eventually it's going to end up freaking being a good morning or a deadlift. But the weight keeps moving. With benching, there's nothing like that. Once the prior movers stop, you stop. So I think that's the big advantage with bench press, that you can't start using your freaking lats to move the weight. You can't start using your quads to move the weight. It's just like when the chest starts to fail, there's nowhere else to go. You might start to flare out the elbows a little bit more to buy some other thing. I don't know, probably even more pecs. But you don't go anywhere, you just fail. But with squatting, you can just keep going, because squatting is a movement which can morph into a deadlift type of pattern. And you might feel like, damn, that felt really, really well. But you use different types of muscles. And this is when you start to kind of get into these stages of training where you start to, I don't want to use the word overtraining, but you start to focus too much on the performance of a lift. Let's say you're looking at the speed of the rep. You're like, that's great. Is it though? Is it great? You can make the weight really, really fly using the back muscles. You just kept your vertical shins completely vertical. You move the weight, you look at the tape, you're like, damn, especially if you're looking at it from this angle, right? You're looking from far away. You're like, that worked really, really perfectly. But did it though? Did you use the right muscles? You called it a squat, but it's a good morning. This is where you get into trouble. Here, let me do a set before I get too cold. I've got, what have I got? 140 here. That's probably going to be the last set of the day. My 15 minutes of squatting as I try and, I don't know, get away from the aches and the pains and feeling shit. All right, let's see how this moves. So I think this is the trouble with squatting, that you can make it a squat, but it's vastly different to what you actually started off with in rep one. Especially with somebody like me that has a tendency to go into a hingy type movement. So, you know, the start of the set, I'm like, yeah, man, here we go, quads, baby. We're working with 60%, 50% weight, great, quads. As soon as the squats start to fail a little bit, all of a sudden, just through, I don't know, through my natural tendency, when things get heavy, I go into a hinge. So unless you put me into a hack squat machine or a leg press machine, I'm gonna get away from the stuff that I'm trying to work anyway. And so then eventually, no matter how hard I push the squat, I always end up in this hingy freaking thing, because that's where my body wants to go anyway. So it's frustrating to me. I did 15 sets of freaking 10 of bench press, and they all look the same. They all look the same. Maybe I bounce off the chest a few reps here and there, you know, when I got tired or whatever, but it's the same damn groove. I'm still doing the same thing. There's no decline of form to a point where you're using your freaking calf to move the weight. It's not like that. You're always using the same stuff. It's it's much less of a compound movement than a squat is, right? So there's less play. And it sucks. It sucks for me because, you know, I love the squat and I wish my squatting was the best lift that I have, but it's not. Now, when we're talking about the deadlift, what about the deadlift? What happens with the deadlift when you start to deteriorate? Nothing. It's kind of like the bench press. You can't move it, that's cool. It stays on the ground. You can't squat the weight. You can't do it. The bar's in front of you. You can't use the wrong muscles. Sure, you can start to round back a little bit when you get fatigued. But you're not going to be miraculously using some other muscle. Like, you won't change the pattern of the lift. It's still going to be a hinge. It can't be a squat. It can't be a bench, obviously. And so the squat is the only one out of the pack which has like this huge sliding window, sliding scale of what the thing can be. You know, it could be completely different. Completely different to, like, first rep to the last rep, completely different. Whereas the deadlift, I feel like no matter what you do, even if you round your back, it's still a hinge. It can't be a squat. And for me, you know, the crappy thing is, like, I fell in love with the squat, which is such a broad term in my mind, because the squat can be a hinge or a freaking squatty squat, if you know what I mean. When I say a squatty squat, I want it to be like this, like loose squatting, right? Up and down. Obviously, I've never been able to do that. So for me, no matter what I do, it's always going to be a type of a hingy thing. And this is where I think I get into trouble because, say I'm gonna do a 3-week block of like real hard training, like real hard, like every other day I'm pushing it. And I can put the weight on the bar. I remember once I got to 190 kilos for a set of 5, right? Last year. Felt great, beautiful, no worries. But then I hit a brick wall, hard, and the hips started hurting. Hard. Why? Why didn't it start hurting 180? Well, maybe I kept moving the weight. And between these 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever the hell the period was, the form started deteriorating set by set, let's say, day by day. And then by the time I got to 190, sure, the weight's moving, but I'm not really squatting anymore. I'm more deadlifting the thing. And so then you start to get into these situations where you're doing the stripper squat, the good morning squat. All of a sudden you're overtaxing the muscles, these little guys in the hip, maybe the quad. I don't know what the source of the pain is. And you get into trouble that way. Because the squat has this ability to let you do whatever you want to do. You want to move the weight, move it however you want. And I feel like if you did deadlifts or bench press in an everyday fashion or like, specialization, I feel like almost it will work better because it's much more railwayed into a certain form. It doesn't have this freedom of form. Bench press more than deadlift. Obviously, with the deadlift, you can kind of start rounding a little bit. But rounding, you can actually see very easily. I don't know. It seems I can get through so much freaking volume in bench press. Like I keep thinking to myself, like the whole day, I'm like, damn. I mean, I stopped at 15. I could have gone to 20. I don't want to go to 20. I mean, it's a lot of work anyway. I should have gone over 10, but lots of freaking work. And I'm like, I have no worries. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to feel great. And I know the day after that, I'll come back to benching, do another. Maybe I'll go to 100 kilos. Maybe I'll start 90 and do freaking 20 sets of 10, whatever. Doesn't really matter. You can see that I'm not really that excited about benching, but I am excited about benching because I can get so much freaking work done without any worries about pain. Nothing hurts. In fact, it's the opposite, man. Listen to this shit. My elbow feels fantastic. The more work I do, the better I feel. Completely opposite to what the squat was doing. With the squat, the more I work I do, the shitter I get. And I already feel today, right? That 140 moves really well. Like, I've stopped really training squats now for 3, 4, 5 days, something like that. Before that, I didn't show it on camera, but I was hammering the hell out of the quads, all these different exercises. I was getting worse and worse and worse. Feel shitter and shitter, naughty and naughtier through the quads. Just feel shit, like the body's punishing me for doing this. And I wasn't doing it every day, I was doing it every other day. Kind of like the exactly the same as bench pressing, in between those heavy squat days, I would come in and do exactly what I did here. 5 reps, 10 reps, whatever, 15 reps of squats total. The bar for 10 and then 70 for 1, 120 for 1, 140 for 1, whatever. It was just literally just practice a motion of squatting. So it's not because I'm overdoing it. It's not. It's just when I do the squat a lot, I hurt. It just hurts. Benching doesn't. I remember once upon a time, and I made a video about this, I did benching 3 days, 3 times a day. I can't even say it. 3 times a day. So my son was born, this was like 7 years ago. And I think 2 weeks after that, played basketball with the boys, just, pick up basketball, rolled my ankle real bad. Started on for a week, couldn't do, I was limping around the house, baby in my hands and all that, it was swollen, it was ugly, whatever. But I've rolled ankles before and usually would go away after a couple of days. No, it didn't go away. Eventually went to the doctor, got a scan, fractured 5th base metatarsal. Basically avulsion fracture, so one of the bones in the foot fractured, the tendon kind of pulled off a piece of the bone. So moon boot for 6 weeks or whatever the hell it was. Moon boot for 6 weeks, and I extended my leave, and went on sick leave, and I was at the house all the time, couldn't really drive, couldn't do anything, so I was like stuck at home. I started reading books, started doing this, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't training at all. Then I read Power to the People, then I got inspired, and I'm like, sick, man, let's try this high frequency shit. And I started benching 3 times a day. I'll wake up in the morning before breakfast, come out, work up to 100 kilos for one, maybe do like 3 singles or something like that, piss off. That was all I was doing. I wasn't doing anything else. I couldn't with this moon boot. Come back before lunch, come back before dinner. Some days I'll do 2 days, some days I'll do 2 sessions, some days I'll do 3. I think I did days of 4 when I was really bored. And the sessions would be like 15 minutes, man, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at most. So I did that. And that's when I went from 110 bench press, I think, to 130 or something like that. I forget now. It was the first time I hit 130 on the bench. And it was stupid high frequency on the bench. Stupid high. And it improved. And nothing hurt. Nothing hurt. I didn't stop it because, you know, I got sick of the results. It's because I went back to work. Obviously, I'm not home all day. And then I started squatting a little bit, deadlifting a little bit, doing pull-ups a little bit. And then all of a sudden, the other stuff came in and I stopped training bench. Number one, I'm not excited about benching anyway. So it never been my primary goal. It was just out of necessity. I had to do something. What do I do? Let's do this. And so that's another example of me getting really good response from doing benching lots and lots of times. Lots of high frequency. Squatting, just not built for it, man. Just not freaking built for it. It just hurts me. And I've tried many different things now. And clearly, I mean, the lesson of last week, this week, I think I've finalized that I ain't training my quads anymore. I'm done. I'm done, man. I'm not training the quads. I've tried all year this year, several times feeling crap. It's all well and good when you're doing a set of 20, 30, 40, and 50, right? You know, bodyweight squats. That's fantastic. Pump the glutes, blah, 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 all that great. But the moment you start using heavier weight with an emphasis of training the quads, hip pain. So I need to stay away from that and go back to what's always worked for me, which is the hamstrings. Train the hamstrings and the glutes. I usually feel well like that. And then try and oscillate the intensity, the volume. Try and wrestle with it. But so much time has passed now that like I've had a really good go at this squat every day thing. And I still am hopeful that I can make it work. But there's a part of me now that's starting to kind of think, I've hit my head against the wall so many times, man. I might have to stop this and try something else. But it still bothers me that I haven't worked out exactly, because I feel like the answer is there somewhere. And there's always kind of in my mind like, yeah, I can make this work. I wish I could make it work. And that's kind of like part of the fun for me. You know, I'm scared if I stop the journey, right? Stop squatting every day. I'm scared that I'll just lose that excitement for training. Because you have to understand, before the squat every day, yeah, I trained. But I was like anyone else. I'd go like a week or 2 without training sometimes. Just whatever. I'll play basketball, soccer instead. But when the squat every day thing started for me, it kind of like, it rejuvenated me, really made me excited. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you buy the video game. You're like thrashing it because you're so excited. You're just playing it every day. That's the feeling that I got when I read that Power to the People book and I started reading the Squat Every Day book a couple of times, read it through. I'm like, man, this is so exciting to kind of do this. I'm excited to train because of this. And now I might stop this and I'm like, shit, maybe I'll stop training. I mean, probably won't. But it's kind of hard, man, because this is the basis of, this is the genesis of my kind of love for training was this. So if I stop this, I mean, where am I going to go? Like, part of me is kind of that train of thought as well. It's got nothing to do, like some of you guys like, you know, have sent me messages like, oh, don't worry, man, like we'll still be here even if you stop the squat every day. That does not concern me. The whole content thing and me being relevant, that doesn't faze me, man. Like, whatever. I'll make videos before the squat every day. I'll make videos after the squat every day. I'll share my experience, whatever the hell I'm doing, man. But it's not about that. It's just, I don't want to, I feel like I don't want to give up when all I got to do is push a little bit harder and the results are going to be there. You know, that kind of thought. It's because there's always going to be, you know, adversity. There's always going to be things in your way and you don't want to pull the pin too early. Like, what if? I mean, what if? What if I work this out next month and I work out a way to train the squat as hard as freaking possible and I don't get any side effects from it. Wouldn't that be cool? Man, I'd be high as hell. But my experience so far is every time I pushed it, I feel like I don't stop because I've had enough. I don't want to push anymore. I stop because I start to feel shit. And I'm jealous. But benching for me, I can push as hard as I want, and it always feels good. It's like, God damn, why can't that be the squat, man? Why can't I do 15 sets of squats and walk out feel great? Damn. That's the shitty thing, man. I wish I could just get after the squat, and I know for a fact, the other thing is also this. Okay, no worries. Let's stop the squat every day. Let's not do the squat for 5 days. Let's go for 1 day a week frequency. I've been there, man. I've been there. I know what that feels like. It's gonna feel like even worse. Now I'm squatting on the hip that hasn't squatted for a week. It's not going to feel better. I've been there. I know how it feels to squat once a week. You go and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, what do I do with this? How do I squat? At least when I'm squatting every day, it's like familiar, and I'm almost kind of warmed up to squat every day. So I feel like it's easier to squat every day than it is to squat once a week. I genuinely feel that in terms of like health. It's just the intensity of how you train is the question. Obviously, if you push hard every day, you're gonna cop it. If you push hard every other day, for me, you're gonna cop it. And also there's a question of what type of thing you do. It seems like it's not so much if you push hard, it's if you push hard into a squatty pattern, you're gonna hurt. If I push really, really hard with like stuff like, when I set up the back raise, I can go back raise like crazy, great. GHDs, 45 hypers, fantastic. Good mornings, I can get after good mornings like a madman. No problems. No problems. Hingy stuff, squatty stuff, I feel like I have no tolerance. I don't know why. What the hell causes me to feel shit in a squatting motion? Weird. Anyway, video's too long. Appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.